morning and afternoon. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all to the Sharing Show. I'm Kane, and I'm joined today with David, better known as the Workday Sharing Guy, Logan, Teresa, and special guests.
Thank you, Kane. Can you tell me what the most important thing about the Zoom chat is?
Absolutely, Logan. So as always, please make sure that when you're chatting with anybody on the show today, you select all panelists and attendees. That way everybody gets to share and hear what everyone else is saying. So with that said, I think it's time to get the show started.
Thanks, Kane. So what we'd like to do, I know it sounds easy to change that default, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. So we're going to test it right now. Change your default to all panelists and attendees. And then what I want you to enter in there to test it is how you rate your Calc field experience. So put B1 if you have never before written a Calc field. Put B2 if you've written Calc fields, but you don't know evaluate expression very well. Put I for intermediate if you know extract single instance. And put A for advanced if Calc fields are easy peasy. And then for a double test, I want you to enter into the chat how many total hours would you set aside for this year's pre-rising share-a-thon, spread across 3 consecutive days in September, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you could do a total of 1 hour a day or 2 hours over the 3 days, put whatever that number is. If you could do 2 hours a day over 3 days, so a maximum of 6 hours, but maybe you're closer to 4 hours, put that in. And if you think you could do 3 hours a day for 3 days, working yourself up to between 7 and 9 hours, put one of those numbers in. And if you could do 1 day with 4 hours, you can put 10 plus. So that way we know kind of what your availability is, and we can start organizing some pre-rising share-a-thons.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about the pre-rising share-a-thon. So the past 4 years, we've been in Chicago, Vegas, and Orlando. And it's usually the weekend before, and it's only for those who fly into the city. Well, we're live and in person. This year, Rising changed from San Francisco, the remote, and then it changed to a different name, and it's in October. So instead of doing it the weekend before, so you're rested for whatever it is Workday is going to do with us in October, we're going to do it in September. Date's not yet set, but we'll go for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if you already split off time that you were going to do Rising, essentially, you know, we're calling it still pre-Rising share-a-thon, even though there is no Rising at all this year. But we're going to do our remote pre-Rising share-a-thon 3 consecutive days. Hi, everybody. If you don't recognize my voice, this is David, the Sharing Guy. I do have a disclaimer, a handshake agreement I have with Workday that make sure everybody knows that I'm no longer active as a Workday employee. My hire date was almost 13 years ago in 2007. I was employee 149. My views may not represent those of Workday. We're all just representing ourselves here. I don't work at Workday anymore. This is just David, the Sharing Guy, and a bunch of customers, and we're all sharing with each other. Share-a-thons are knowledge sharing. This is not training. I highly recommend the Workday training. I used to be part of that team. I also highly recommend this pre-Rising share-a-thon. That picture shows on community where it is. We will also post this on thesharingshow.com, so you have a link directly to it. For those who have been following this show, happy birthday today on LinkedIn. 3 different people have today's birthday. And some of you know why tracking your birthday might be important. It has something to do with how it's been raining Apple Watches. Having some fun on LinkedIn. You might want to connect with me if you haven't yet. Here's today's show, and I put up there a video which is going to continue on my LinkedIn profile.
That's great. Thanks, David. And so today we're going to be working on Calc fields. And coming up, we have benefits for open enrollment. And then on the 16th, we will do advanced comp.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Logan. So what do we have next today?
Today, we would like to welcome Tina from Wisconsin. Welcome, Tina.
Thanks, everyone. I have recently embedded recruiting videos in my external career site and also enabled Google Analytics. And the way I'm trying to set up a goal that would allow me to track when someone clicks on a video. But since the URL doesn't change when you click on a video, I'm trying to see if I can connect with someone that has done this that can help me to figure out how to do that.
Okay, thank you, Tina. So that's the way this works. This is an ask for anybody here who is live, who has seen this question and might have solved it already. Feel free to discuss this in the chat. Thank you again, Tina.
Thank you.
Great. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we have Gladys from Mississippi. Welcome, Gladys.
Thank you.
Hi, Gladys. So I had a lot of fun with you yesterday trying to connect these two different objects. Go ahead and give everybody the background and see if anyone could help.
Okay, I have in my report, the primary business object is the supplier invoice. And I am trying to get the supplier contract type into that report. And that is on the supplier contract or alternate supplier contract business object. So I hadn't been able to do it if anybody could help.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we did yesterday. We started from the endpoint.
Yes.
It was pretty interesting, right? So when we went from the endpoint, that business object, and we looked at the related business objects, the important thing is to look, when you're starting from the endpoint, you have to walk backwards. I think the example I might have said is, have you ever done a maze, you know, as you're waiting at Denny's in the little magazine they give you? Have you ever gone from the end point of the maze and walked backwards? If you are doing that, walking backwards, so here's the end point, you need to use the right side to try to find a path back to the beginning. Let's just see if anybody in the chat is able to help you out. Any other hints? Or I do know one other thing is that what I saw on my screen wasn't the same as what you saw on your screen when we both tried to do this.
Correct. You had an extra business object that I didn't have.
Lots of potential mysteries in store for us here. Thank you, Gladys, for the ask. Anybody in the chat with experience with financials, calc fields, feel free to have that discussion in the chat.
Great. Hopefully we can get some help there. So what's next on the agenda?
Up next, we'd like to welcome back Mike from Philly.
Hey there, I have a couple of recruiting calculated fields I'd like to share. The first one is going to be a lookup related value. And just to tell a quick story, think of this as you're configuring Workday and you want to send a notification to an interview candidate. But the notification is going to come from the hiring manager, thanking them for the time for the interview. And Logan's asked you, the Fearless Calc Field Guru, to create a calculated field which is going to pull the manager's business title. So how would you do it? First thing I would do is go and create a calc field off of the job applications, prospects, and referrals business object. And what we're going to do is we're going to look up the manager object and return the related business object of worker, because the manager is always a worker. And then from there, you can return the business title. So that's a good calc field share. The second one, this is my favorite because it's so useful in more than one business case. What we're doing here is we're going to be extracting a single instance and then also doing a lookup related value off of that single instance. The story here is you're creating an offer letter, and what you have to do is get the target percent of the bonus that was assigned during the offer portion of the business process. Think of this will come up lots of times. Anytime a compensation plan is involved and you wanted to get an amount, or allowance amount, or one-time payment amount, or anything like that, this is the kind of pattern that you're going to run into. So the first thing you're going to do is create an extract single instance. And actually, I'm going to take a little bit, I took a little bit of liberty, because the first thing you actually need to do is create a true-false condition here. And what you're going to do is that true-false condition is just going to create has the compensation plan name. I didn't put that in the slide deck. Because everybody has so different things that occur in their compensation plan. So on our extract single instance, we're going to grab the proposed bonus plans, and then we're going to sort by the effective date and pull the first occurrence, which is going to pull the latest time compensation has been proposed. The other way you can do this, because there's lots of ways to do stuff in Workday, is you can always just do descending and pull first occurrence as well when you sort by effective date. The LRV, the lookup related value, is going to use the calculated field that you use for the extract single instance, and then you can finally return the bonus target percent in this example. I hope those two calc fields were useful for you, and thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'm going to go back to your extract single instance. And so there's the true false on comp plan. And that's going to come up again, so I wanted to highlight that. The sort field, is the sort field important, or is it just pick anything? Is it, in this case, sometimes the sort field isn't as important?
In this case, it's not as important. Effective date's just a nice way to do it, because then that way, if comp has been proposed multiple times, you're going to get the latest proposal.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Great. So what do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we'd like to welcome Gina from Belgium. Welcome, Gina.
Hi, everyone. I would like to share some examples on calc fields that can be a great way to enrich PECI data. For instance, if you like to link a lot of information, detailed information from Workday to different payroll systems. So the first example that you see is a calculated field to pick up social benefits localities, a quite exotic field in Workday, I think, which is not part of the PECI attribute yet. The lookup related value, the lookup related value for the social benefits localities is a calculated field on the business object worker to pick up the details from that field. Specifically, the code is the return value. And what is important is to link the calculated field to the business object worker, because in the second step, if you want to add it to the PECI integration, you have to make sure that you choose a data section, like the personal data section, where the business object is also the worker. And you can relate the social benefits localities calculated field directly to that data section at that time. Second calculated field example is, for instance, if you have already a field within PECI, like pay cycle hours, is it standard Workday calculation, but you say, okay, this is not exactly the value that I would like to use. I have my own calculation, which I created out of different calculated fields. As you can see on the right, we can pick up scheduled weekly hours, we can use a numeric constant, and we create an arithmetic calculation out of those fields to have our own specific calculation with specific roundings linked to the business object position. And by doing this, you can link this calculated field in your PECI to any kind of data section that is also has a business object of position. So in the next slide, you will see that the position data section has the same business object, and then you can easily link the calculated field to that data section and pick it up in the PECI.
All right, Gina, this is great. This is titled, by the way, our theme is Calculated Field Examples. For those who have never worked on integrations or not even sure what PECI means, you might have heard the word prior to PECI was called PECOF. And way back when I was at Workday, I did a dozen of these. PECOF is still around, but more recently, the version of that is PECI. But you know what's available here, in case you didn't catch that background, is the integration will just run as it is. If you want special fields to show up in this integration, you need to know calc fields. So let me ask you, Gina, are all of these calc fields that we've seen, I'm going to go back, are all of these calc fields that you've done, are they all on the worker object?
The first one is on the worker object, so the social benefits localities. The second one is linked to the position.
Ah, got it. Right, on the position object.
I think the most important thing is that you choose a calculated field linked to the same business object as the data section that you wanted to put in.
Got it. Thank you, Gina. Thank you for your share. You now have an ask.
Yes, exactly. So I'm looking into possibilities to use Document Builder in PECI. I'm only at exploration mode, so I haven't found much details besides the Workday documentation for configuring. My question is there any other information available, community links, use cases, any kind of experiences from other people or examples? That would be great to help me dive into the details and have some information.
Okay, thank you again, Gina. So anybody who has done anything with Document Builder, connect here with Gina in the chat.
Great, thank you so much. And what do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we'd like to welcome Carrie from Georgia. Welcome, Carrie.
Hey, thank you. Okay, what I have for you guys today is a lookup value as update. This was used in the report designer, which is what we're seeing here. And report designer is built on open source software, BERT, business intelligence and reporting tools, and that runs within Workday Studio. So once we get the calculated field into the report, we can pull it out in the report designer. And for this use, it was for pay slips, and we're going to be hiding visibility based on that calculated field. In this case, we're using rate. We want to hide that if exempt equals true. To build the JavaScript, you click on the FX button in Report Designer, and it pulls you up to what they call Expression Builder, which is where you would put in your JavaScript. So we put the calc field on 3 separate areas, and the report writer report, and that comes out into the earnings data set. So we're kind of going to go a little bit backwards. First of all, we need a condition. We want to make sure that the coverage or subperiod end date is there, it's not blank, and that there's an associated earning.
All right, now, Carrie, I'm going to throw in here that this is maybe a strange naming convention, but since you're going to go through several calc fields and they all link together, I went ahead and put the numbers 01, 02, 03, 04 into the names of your calc fields. Even though that's a strange naming convention, I have seen people do this. You'll see when Carrie gets to calc field number 4, if that helps, that the numbers are on there.
Yeah, it kind of helps you to keep track of things. From our condition, we want to retrieve coverage or subperiod end date. This is an if then else statement, pretty common, evaluate expression. If our end dates meet our prior condition from 01, we're going to pull the coverage subperiod end date. If not, we have a default value on scheduled period end date. Next is an LRV, because we're working with payroll result line as the BO. We want to pull the exempt Boolean value from worker. And here's our lookup value as of date. We have our LRV that we're going to pull, and that's based on the date that we built subperiod end date.
This is great, Carrie. I think you're the first one on the show. We're over 30 shows now. I think you're the first one to do anything BERT. Anybody with questions for Carrie on BERT, head to the chat for that. Carrie, was there anything else? Oh, I did make a change also, not only numbering these. You see here for number 3, I took out the word worker and replaced it with WRKR. More and more I see that people have a hard time finding their calc fields if the word worker is there. That's the only other change I made.
That's actually a good idea. And actually, I think the numbering convention works well if you have to build up a field like this.
Thank you again, Carrie.
Thank you.
This has all been really helpful. So who do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to hear some more from David.
Hello again, everybody. This is an anonymous contribution for compensation. It does actually tie into Mike's mention of the fact that everyone's got different comps. So the business object is comp plan assignment. On comp plan, we have a true-false condition here just to know if this is the 13-month pay. So then where is that used? It's being used here on the worker object. We're going to do an extract single instance from all the allowance plan assignments, and we're just going to grab only this one, the 13-month pay. Now I'm going to come back to that. I'm skipping over something on purpose, but those paying attention might know what's going to come back here in a second. So here's the idea. Now, in this case, it's a report. It's not BERT or PECI. It's just a report where we're using this, but we've done an extract single instance. So this now gets to go over here in the business object column, and then you could grab any fields you want from it. So here's the part that I had skipped over. It's an extract single instance where you have a multiple instance and you need to grab just one. After a condition, there is a sort field. And the question is, when is that sort field important? And I get questions all over the place from people with financials and benefits and comp and payroll asking me questions about calc fields, but often it just comes down to not the calc fields, but the data itself. So I needed to know from this anonymous contributor, is that sort field important or not? Should I highlight it? And eventually, after a little back and forth, either way, maybe just point out that Workday doesn't lie. If the data returned is not what you expected, you'll need to reassess what you asked for in the calc field. So I like this so much, it's now the title of this slide. Workday doesn't lie. I might do a video just about that.
Thanks so much, David. I like that. What do we have next on the agenda?
David, would you like to share?
Yes, okay, so I'm going to go over now a benefits example. And Teresa, I'll do the best I can not to make you laugh as I'm presenting. Here's a calc field where you need to get the employee age as of something, right? So some benefit plans like 401k, catch-up, need to include employees' age for eligibility purposes. There is a calculate age as of field. Your plan, if your plan need ages as of different dates, you need a calc field. Here's an example of a calc field to determine employee's age as of the end of the benefit plan year. So then this way we know whether or not an employee will be 50 by the end of the benefit plan year. So here's the calc field that we need first. We don't have the number 01 and 02 on the end of this. It's just step number 1. We're doing a bill date calc field, and we're going to take the current effective date, and the month is 12 and the day is 31. So that's pretty much the trick. Now we have step 2, the lookup value as of date. We could get the age as of that date that we just built. Pretty straightforward. It's just one of several valuable examples for benefits.
Thanks so much, David. What do we have next on the agenda?
And our final guest for today is going to be Juliana from Florida. Welcome, Juliana.
Thanks for having me on. So we're often asked to add the cost center project and grant work tags to operational reports, but users don't want all the other work tags like company and fund and business unit. So typically to do this, we would need to add 3 separate columns, one for each cost center project and grant, but our transactions only have one or the other. You can't have cost center project and grant. To make the report cleaner, we've created a calculated field that combines them all into one column. This has the added benefit of putting this onto the taggable business object with an output on the accounting work tag business object so that we can create composite reports that combine data sources like budget entries and journal lines controlled on the cost center project or grant object. First, we're going to create a true-false condition to check if a cost center tag exists on the transaction. We'll repeat that for each tag type that we want in the column. Next, we'll use the evaluate expression to check if a tag exists and pull in the related work tag field if it doesn't. Here you can see the cost center true false we created previously. Then, there we go. So yeah, it checks if there's a non-blank value for our cost center. If there is a cost center available, then it returns the cost center. And if not, then it continues down the list until it finds one that is there. So last, we'll use an aggregate related instance calculation to promote the evaluate expression to the transaction level. So this example is only on the requisition, but we've also used it to bring the tags up to other transaction types like purchase order lines, spend authorization lines, expense reports, journal lines, and budget lines.
All right, Juliana, this is great. One thing in particular I like about this, besides it being another financials example, is that often I'm asked for good examples for ARI, for the aggregate related instances. For people, if you've got questions for Juliana, again, you could use the chat. And welcome back, Juliana. It's been great having you as a guest in the previous shows as well.
It's been great to be on.
Thank you so much, everyone. Now we would like to thank our co-sponsors.
And so one of our co-sponsors today is Humanity, and we'd like to thank Humanity. Humanity is a Workday certified and improved employee scheduling software. Thank you, Humanity.
And do we have Erin from Good Time?
I am here. Hi, everyone. I'm Erin from Good Time. Good Time interview scheduling platform allows you to get the most out of Workday Recruit by enabling recruiting teams to provide a personalized candidate experience at scale, improving hiring decisions, costs, and time to hire.
Thank you, Erin, for being the sponsor.
And we would like to thank David, the sharing guy, home of the customer sharing movement.
And of course, as always, we'd like to thank Kane and Dovetail. Dovetail provides HR service delivery software that reduces the number of questions into HR by over 50%. Dovetail also provides emergency response management software that provides HR with the tools to manage all coronavirus-related questions from employees, along with symptom checking and contact tracing. Dovetail is also tracking COVID-19 case volumes from HR teams globally. To learn more, please visit dovetailsoftware.com. Thank you, Dovetail.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And thank you, Logan, Teresa, and special thank you to our guests today for speaking on the show and sharing. As always, we publish this recording to our YouTube channel. You'll find all the previous shows there. If you head over, click on the like and subscribe. You'll also, if you click on that notifications bell icon as well, you'll get notified when this publishes. So all that's left to say is, everybody, thank you for joining the show today. Everybody have a great work day.